All right, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets, who last night got back at it after 3 days off, and you would expect them to have a better game plan, be very locked in, understand what the San Antonio Spurs are trying to do, and then be able to cut that off as best as they can. That did not happen. That did not happen last night as the Spurs scored 139 points with some help due to fouling at the end. Obviously, Denver's trying to get back into it, but they still scored 139 against the Nuggets, who only put up a measly 136. A pretty good offensive performance, not going to lie. There were a couple times where they were a little shaky, but overall, it's really hard to complain about the offense. I know people are going to be very critical of Nikola Jokic taking 10 shots, things like that. I am the opposite of concerned about that aspect of Denver right now. So if you came in here to want to discuss Nikola Jokic's lack of aggression on the offensive end, I miss me with that. That is not important in any stretch of the word. What is important is that the Nuggets suck defensively again. They are bad. They are real bad. And it's unfortunate that this is like, it is unfortunate that this has happened for Denver because, look, they started the season off so well. And this is the adversity that I said would hit after Aaron Gordon went down. And this is it's just so true that, oh, wait, I forgot to change the background here. It is just so true that the Nuggets have a very unfortunate situation on their hands where you're down a couple starters, your two most important defensive guys within the starting lineup, and that really impacts things. That really makes things worse. And I just think that, look, there's a couple of different ways that you can go about this. It should be a nuanced way, but this is the third game in a row that the Nuggets have lost at home. And the two previous losses were to Chicago and Sacramento. Doesn't matter about back-to-backs or anything like that. Don't care. And then they lose to San Antonio, who is a good team, but also missing a couple of important guys in Victor Wembanyama and Steph Castle. So, look, this is one that Denver had to have. This is one that Denver needed to be more focused for. And the fact that they weren't able to get it, on top of it being an elimination game for the NBA Cup, that's a thing. But also at the end of the year, if you're tied with the San Antonio Spurs in the win-loss column, that this is one where, 139 points, really tough to give that one up. Just an inexcusable defensive performance. And we're going to talk about what happened. We'll talk about the clutch time errors that keep popping up. And then we'll talk about Phoenix tonight and how Denver traveling last night to Phoenix very late. We'll see what they do. We'll see how they play. But they're going to have to turn the page really quickly because this one was not a good performance. Denver put up 30 plus in every quarter. Let's start with the good. They put up 30 plus in every quarter, 33, 41, 30, and 42. Against this Spurs team that is without Wembanyama, though, they are not a good defensive team. The Spurs are not a good defensive team, and Denver should be putting up those numbers, especially with the way that the pace was last night. It was a little bit higher than you would expect. Denver's offense put up, according to ESPN here, a 133 offensive rating. There's a lot of good things you could point to. Jamal had 37, 13 of 20 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3. He was fantastic. Only 2 turnovers, 7 assists. It was a really good night for Jamal. Cameron Johnson, 28 points, 10 of 16 from the field, 6 of 9 from 3. He's really starting to find that rhythm to go along with 6 assists, an assist, 2 steals, and a block. He was productive. He was +7. Spencer Jones was +8. I know that he didn't shoot the ball that well, but he did basically everything else that you would want for him to do in his role. And the Nuggets even got him involved in some short roll screening action when the Spurs decided to switch up assignments to put Luke Cornett on Jones and really put a lot of pressure on him. Unfortunately, he did not close the game, and we'll talk about why that was. But the real one that a lot of people are getting into is the fact that Jokic was pretty unaggressive in this game, only had 10 shots, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, and had 4 turnovers. He was not at his peak performance. And in a game like this, where the Spurs are raining hellfire and like the Spurs are double teaming and they're just holding on to Jokic for dear life. They're not going to let him get free. They're going to do everything they can to force other guys to beat them. The Nuggets mostly did. Again, 136 points is a great offensive number. So I'm not going to really focus on Jokic's offense. I'm going to focus on Jokic's defense and the Nuggets defense and what was a horrific defensive performance from Denver. I think that Denver's scheme right now, especially against so many of these like downhill teams that really generate corner threes and generate rim pressure, it's really tough because Denver, what they want to do is they want to shrink the floor when Jokic is in the middle. They want to give him as much help as possible, alleviate the burden as much as possible for Jokic. And what that looks like in practice is that you're going to give up a lot of perimeter shots. You're going to give up a lot of outside shots, and you have to live with it. Like it's a requirement, because if you're going to give Jokic so much help in the middle, then you're going to give up an open shot somewhere. Denver doesn't have the defensive talent around Jokic to really like make up the difference. Spencer Jones made some great plays. Defensively. I thought the block that he had, I don't remember who it was on. Was it on Vassell? Was it on Fox? I think it might have been on Vassell, actually. Was ridiculously good in the third quarter. He had some great defensive plays. Peyton Watson had some great defensive plays. Cam Johnson, like I said, got involved and did some good things. I thought Jamal Murray, after getting back cut one time, was pretty solid. You can't really point to any of those guys specifically within that starting lineup and say, oh yeah, they were the problem. Because I think all of it was the problem. I think all of it is a major issue for the Nuggets right now as they try to play a defensive scheme that hides Jokic as much as possible. And Jokic, for his part, did not do enough defensively in this game in order to disrupt anything the Spurs were trying to do. De'Aaron Fox, excuse me. When the Nuggets were trying to get the ball out of his hands, the goal there for Jokic is to get a deflection. It's like if you're going to hard hedge, if you're going to be up at the level, especially late in the game, you want to get the ball out of his hands, you better get a deflection. And De'Aaron Fox was just fine avoiding those plays. He had 3 turnovers, but he had 12 assists. And Jokic had 1 steal on the game, certainly wasn't protecting the rim that well. And as a result, the Nuggets just kept creeping in from the perimeter. And then you get very vulnerable on the weak side to these shooters. And Champagnie was doing it throughout the night, but Devin Vassell was really the guy that was getting killed. And at the end, it was Tim Hardaway Jr., who was coming in to provide Denver a little bit more offense, a little bit more spacing down the stretch. Spencer Jones missed a late 3, like in the middle of the fourth quarter or so. Excuse me. Sorry. And as a result, he was taken out of the game, and the Nuggets went with an offensive lineup at the end of the game. But the problem was that Tim Hardaway Jr. is getting involved in the action every time, and the Spurs went at him, whether it was with him on the ball against De'Aaron Fox, which he got a stop or 2. But really, it was on when he was the single side tag and the guy on the weak side and could not also help Jokic in addition to getting back out to his man for 3. And that was Vassell half the time. And that was just a problem. Peyton Watson's been really good at the point of attack defensively for Denver. He does a lot of good things in terms of recovery and getting back into the picture and blocking shots and contesting things. But if you screen him off and you add in, let's say it's Murray, let's say it's Cam, let's say it's Tim Hardaway in that situation, uh, you're just going to have a weaker defense at the top, at the point of attack. Um, yeah, it's tough. I don't know how to handle it if I'm Denver, because you want to make you like one of the reasons why the Nuggets are doing this defensive scheme is that they're trying to save Jokic for the entire year. They're trying to save his energy. They're trying to put him into a place where he is not having to go out and guard and be on an island and be running around all the time, because teams have done this consistently. They consistently go at Jokic. They try to tire him out. They try to wear him out. They'll attack him for 50 pick and rolls a game or whatever it is. And as a result, like often you're going to get some open shots. And Denver's got to live with it, because they were like, look, they were an elite defensive team at the beginning of the year. That is gone. Like that is just, it's straight up not here anymore. The number that I just posted heading into this show, since Aaron Gordon got hurt on November 21st, Denver had a good defensive game against Houston. But since then, they haven't played a lot of games, to be clear, but they have a 129.1 defensive rating in all those games, which is by far the worst in the NBA. It's only 3 games, and actually it was funny, is Denver has a positive net rating during that stretch, despite the fact that they're 1-2. They have a 130.6 offensive rating. They are second in the NBA in offense. The offense is still fine. Like that's the part where it's very frustrating for Denver. It's that they're playing at a historic offensive level right now, but they're playing historically bad on the defensive end, which is a far cry from the expectations that you had for them, that anybody should have had for them at the beginning of the season. When you remove one defender in Christian Braun, you can piece it together. You have like Aaron Gordon still there. You've got other options. Really, it's just about building out minutes and giving yourself options going forward. Peyton Watson playing the 2, way better for Denver defensively than Peyton Watson playing the 4, because it opens up the floor a lot more. It's not because of Peyton Watson's skill set. He can do either of those positions really well. It's mostly about just adding another defender to the mix. But you lose a second guy in Aaron Gordon, and suddenly you're vulnerable. I know why David Adelman has gone to Spencer Jones on a consistent basis, because they want the defense. Like he is somebody who should, in theory, be able to help them with that. But in practice, it has not really helped. It has not made Denver better. And if anything, the bench and actually, no, it really is the starters. It's the starters, but it's also the rotational stuff. Like Zeke Najee's not helping them defensively. He was not closing out hard enough on the perimeter and giving up some open shots, and also not really contesting well around the rim. There's a lot of guys that like Denver needs to play good defense and hasn't played good defense yet. Deron Holmes is like, I know Shishmain says Holmes back to the G League and Zeke playing still. That should tell you about where Deron Holmes is in the eyes of the coaching staff, man. Like that's the thing, is that they're not exactly getting elite production from Zeke Najee. That's everybody's proud of him. Everybody's happy when he does good things. And he had a couple putback dunks last night, which was nice, or at least one. I don't remember if he had a second one. I think he had 2, but he missed the 2 threes. He turned the ball over a couple times. He minus 13 in 14 minutes, and Denver's just not getting the production in those situations that they need. So yeah, it's frustrating. It is a frustrating mix. And if you're the Nuggets, then like you got to just find a way to dig deep defensively. That's the only way that this is really going to work. Denver has to find a way to build out their defensive scheme. And maybe this is just like a matchup problem for Denver, because I knew going into this matchup that Denver was going to struggle with San Antonio. Like San Antonio is the right kind of team to attack. Like you've got De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper going downhill. Devin Vassell can get to whatever shot he wants to. And then you've got guys like Keldon Johnson and Harrison Barnes and Julian Champagnie who are just taking advantage of open shots. But Denver's got to control the things that they can control. And like Tim Hardaway fouling a 3-point shooter. Denver, like I know that they're fouling intentionally a fair amount of at the end, but like 30 of 32 from the free throw line for San Antonio, it's really hard to make up the difference when you're giving up 32 free throws. Usually Denver's the team that is attacking and generating the free throw contact, but this time it was not that. Denver generated 8 total turnovers from the Spurs. They also allowed 12 offensive rebounds, which is more than they should allow in a situation like this. A lot of it was just like straight up putbacks, like where a guy would miss a middling 7 to 10 footer and then be in range for the putback because Watson got out of position or Murray wasn't able to really contest. Spencer Jones having 1 rebound all game despite playing 23 minutes is bad. Jokic only having 9 rebounds is bad. Like there's no reason why Denver should be rebounding as poorly as they are. And they out-rebounded San Antonio 44 to 35. But like there's a complete difference between the size of these two teams. Like Denver should have absolutely crushed them on the glass. And it was not good enough. So yeah, man, I think that like there's a lot to be concerned about. There's a lot to work on. Again, Denver's 18 games into the year. They are 13-5. You got to contextualize these things, but at the start here, like we're in a different segment of the season. The first segment was Denver was healthy and they got through it and they did really well and they got off to a great start. Now we are in the setup where, okay, not sure how the record is going to look if the Nuggets don't get back to playing any semblance of defense. There's only so far that offense is going to take them. And it's really tough to like have to navigate that throughout the year. But this is the requirement, man. This is the job. So if you're Denver, it starts tonight when you play a back-to-back at the Phoenix Suns. Can you actually like guard anybody? It's a fair question. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss the clutch time concerns, if there's anything to it, and then we'll talk about Phoenix tonight and what Denver can do against them. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Let's get down to it. Let's talk about what the Nuggets are doing in the clutch and what they're not doing in the clutch that is really stressing a lot of people out. First thing that's important, let's just go over the actual clutch numbers so far. The Nuggets are 2-5 in what is considered clutch games so far this season. I'm pretty sure Memphis counted as a clutch game, which is why they have a second win. But 2-5 is pretty bad. That is not the win-loss record that you would expect to have. There are some other teams that have been way worse. Like the Dallas Mavericks are 4-11 in clutch time. They've been in 15 clutch games so far this season. The Nuggets have only been in 7. Which is tied for the second fewest, or I guess fourth fewest, in the entire NBA. It's very rare. Now, the Lakers are 6-0 in clutch time games. They have a 110.7 offensive rating. The Nuggets have a 108.3 offensive rating. They're not that bad from the Lakers, but The Lakers are 6-0 and the Nuggets are 2-5. And the Lakers have an 81 defensive rating, which is the best in the entire NBA. And the Nuggets have a 144.6 defensive rating, which is, you can guess it, by far the worst in the NBA in the clutch. And look, a lot of this is like the Warriors game that they lost in the clutch. They lost track of Steph Curry, and Steph Curry did crazy things. The Blazers game, it felt like they turned the ball over pretty consistently, and the Blazers got some easy shots out of it as a result. There's a couple of other games that we can point to, but for this one last night, Denver did not do a good enough job of playing consistently down the stretch. I mean, we can just go through the possessions here. Starting with about 5 minutes left to go, Jokic makes a driving layup with 5:03, 121-119 Spurs. So they're up 2 at that point. Jokic comes down. Denver forces a miss. Then Cam Johnson misses a 3. Jokic then collects an offensive rebound, gets fouled, makes 1 of 2 free throws. Again, the free throws are a problem. Joker, for whatever reason, does not shoot that well in the clutch at the free throw line. Like it's just a straight up fact at this point. Next possession down, Devin Vassell gets a mid-range pull-up. Okay, you're willing to live with something like that. It's not crazy. Next shot, Murray comes back down, gets a mid-range pull-up himself. So the Nuggets are down 1 with 3:57 to go. Then De'Aaron Fox misses a pull-up in the mid-range. Spurs get an offensive rebound. That was a one where I think it was a battle between Jokic and Cornet. The ball goes off of Jokic's hands, or at least the ref seems to think so. And the Spurs take a timeout, and then Julian Champagnie out of bounds, like ATO after the timeout. Julian Champagnie gets a cutting layup right in front of Cam Johnson's face on the baseline, and they commit a foul. So, and 1. Champagnie makes the free throw. Nuggets down 4, but Cam Johnson immediately gets a 3 right after that. Nuggets down 1. Fox misses another mid-range pull-up. Jokic, defensive rebound, pushes the ball down the floor, gets the ball into Peyton Watson underneath the basket, misses a shot, gets his own offensive rebound off of a tip, cannot tip it in. And then De'Aaron Fox loses the ball. Jokic finally gets a steal in the clutch, and then immediately throws the ball out of bounds that goes through Tim Hardaway Jr.'s legs. The Nuggets thought it tipped off of a guy, but ultimately it didn't really matter. Did it really matter that it tipped off? It was just a bad decision to make. You need to value every possession, and the ball got tipped off of a Spur maybe, but it was still like, it was so infinitesimal that it wasn't noticed. And then Spurs go down. They miss. Luke Cornet gets an offensive rebound. They miss again. Then Nikola Jokic grabs an offensive rebound. Jamal Murray gets fouled by Devin Vassell after crashing to the floor. Misses a free throw. That makes the second. The game is tied. So game is tied with about 1.5 minutes left to go. And then Devin Vassell hits a clutch 3. That was one where Tim Hardaway Jr. screwed up the rotation on the weak side. He should not have crashed as hard as he did and screwed it up and left Devin Vassell wide open, and he buried it. Then Jamal Murray gets into the paint, misses a floater, grabs an offensive rebound, but travels because he was very off kilter. I kind of give him a pass for this one after he crashed to the ground the previous time. Spurs continued to double Nikola Jokic at the top, and so it was a wide open lane that Murray had. He just made a bad play. It was just a really bad play, and it was a horrible turnover in that moment. But like, it was so good throughout the game that you understand, like, give him a little pass. But it doesn't matter because immediately Devin Vassell hits another 3 on the end, and 55 seconds left. Denver's down 6. That's basically the game. And the rest of the time, it was a whole bunch of free throw battling. So, like, look, these are controllable mistakes, especially in the clutch where Peyton Watson misses a shot right under the rim. Jokic tries to throw the hit-ahead pass, gets deflected off of a Spur, seemingly gets deflected by Tim Hardaway, whatever. turnover. Um, Denver makes mistakes on the defensive end, leads to open threes. Denver misses free throws that they're generating the right looks. You're generating the easiest shots and you keep missing those shots. Like, it's just like there's a reason why these things are happening. Do I think it's because Jokic is not being aggressive enough? No. That's not the reason why this is happening. And I know that this, like, at least not for this game. Maybe there's some other games where it's a little bit of a thing, but do you really want to argue that the ball should not be in Jamal Murray's hands when he has 37 and was cooking last night? He got to wherever he wanted to go and made a mistake with a minute left to go that he shouldn't have made. But, like, that happens. And the problem, and I said this on Locked On last night, the problem that Denver runs into in the clutch is that the moment they get defensive stops, it almost feels like an absolute, like, prayer being answered. And then you screw it up and you can't capitalize on it. You can't get the snowball rolling downhill. And you just consistently screw it up and can't play on both ends of the floor at the same time. Denver finally locked in on the defensive end when they needed to, and then they couldn't score, and they couldn't make the right plays. They're not executing at a high enough level right now. And so this is a very rare thing. This is something that has not happened to Denver for a long time. Like, they've always been so good offensively in the clutch. And I got to imagine that a fair amount of this is that, like, look, usually Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon are out there and they help solidify both things on the defensive end. Maybe you work Peyton Watson into that, but really you're just like, that Jokic and Murray are going to do their thing, and Cam Johnson's now getting up to speed on that. But it just feels like they're trying hard defensively or screwing it up. And, like, it's hard to say that they're trying hard defensively when they're so bad at it. That I will say. And so I can understand not wanting to give them the benefit of the doubt there. I am not worried about Jokic not taking over. I think, like, if Denver gets into the clutch tonight, you're probably going to see Jokic take over. You're probably going to see him get the ball every single time. And if he doesn't, then it's probably because the ball is being denied to him by the Suns, and it allows somebody else to be open. But the problem that you run into if you're Denver is that you put so much pressure on those other guys. And I thought that Jamal and Cam Johnson stepped up. They had a couple bad turnovers here or there, but, like, for the most part, extremely efficient, extremely good. Peyton Watson went 1 of 5 from 3. Spencer Jones went 1 of 5 from 3. Tim Hardaway, though he made his final 2 threes, only went 2 of 7 from 3. Like, Murray was great. Cam Johnson was great, but Denver's just not able to string together a night, like, in these clutch moments where everybody is hitting at the same time. And the Spurs had that. They had that last night. Harrison Barnes only went 1 of 6. De'Aaron Fox only went 1 of 6, but he also had 12 assists. Harrison Barnes is just their stabilizer. Like, he really helped. He had 5 assists. Like, they're just moving the ball extremely well and extremely efficiently. And Denver just did not have the same. So, look, we will see what happens. Red White says, Ryan, do you stand by your 11-5 score without AG and CB? No, I will drop that down to 10-6. This is not a game that I expected them to lose. I don't think they're about to make it up anywhere. So we'll say 10-6. And honestly, it's probably closer to 9-7 at this point, the way that they're trending, the way that they're playing. I kind of figured that after 3 days off that they would bring a little bit better of a defensive energy than they had last night. And they did some good things in that second quarter that really helped them make a run. But, like, you can't defend for 1 quarter in the NBA. You got to defend for at least 2. And Denver, like, they gave up 41 in the first, only 18 in the second. That was fantastic. Then you, like, immediately screw it up by giving up 44 in the third. And then at the moment where you really need to get some stops, 36 in the fourth. It's unacceptable. Like, Denver cannot win that way. They will not win that way. So, worst defense in the NBA in the last week. How do you respond to that? How do you improve beyond that? The Thunder don't have that issue. Why should the Nuggets have that issue? I mean, that's because the Thunder are a historically great defense. But yeah, the Nuggets might need another guy defensively. They might need somebody who can guard and then also is not useless on the offensive end at the same time. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what that's going to look like. So get a comment here. Adelman is not a good coach. Adelman is a very good coach. I understand what people are going to have like from concerns from this game, and you're going to want to blame the coach. You're going to want to think about it that way. Like, there's only if you're not executing the defensive scheme, then it's really hard to blame the like. If it's just the same, well, okay. I want to give David Adelman a pass for this one, but also you have to be properly scheming like what this is, and like, you are right. Like poor scheming, leaving wide open threes, like that is what they're doing. But hypothetically speaking, if this helps them get to the playoffs with a freshly rested Joker who can then be a little bit more aggressive, like, is that this is a short-term versus long-term kind of problem? Are you worried more about the short term, or are you worried more about the long term with this team and what they're able to do at that point? I think it's a decent question. Like Jokic consistently has been okay. The wrist is not affecting Jokic's conditioning. Like if you make that a thing, that is not a thing. Absolutely not. And Jokic would be the first one to tell you that that is not a thing. He might be trying to protect the wrist a little bit by moving a little bit less, but like that is not a conditioning problem. He'll all I know is that Denver needs Jokic to be a peak performance by the end. So we'll see. Why not make them take tough twos? Yeah, like great idea. You make them do that. Like they're not that tough when like you run them off of the 3-point line. These guys are really good. Like Devin Vassell's making everything. Like I don't think they're. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, really quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on Phoenix. We'll see how they respond to this particular game. I'm going to pull up FanDuel right now. We're going to check on the odds. We're going to see where things are at. I would guess, and I'll do the little guess the line here. I'm going to guess that the Nuggets are -2, -2.5 in this situation. It might be larger than that. Like they should probably be favored against Phoenix right now. They are -3.5. So pretty strong favorites still. The over-under line is 231.5. Take the over. Just take the over. Neither of these teams is going to be able to guard the other. Like that's pretty clear in my opinion. And then an important matchup for this one. De'Aaron Fox just had 12 assists. I would say that Devin Booker with 10 assists makes a degree of sense. Devin Booker's plus 230 right now, 10 assists. That seems like a pretty solid bet. And then like Jokic triple-double is probably a solid bet as well. Like he's going to come back. He's going to bring a lot more aggression in this case. You already know that he's going to be a little bit more consistent on that end. So that's where I would focus in on. I think that overall, like the Suns are pretty similar in terms of their design to what the Spurs are, where you've got one roller, and at least this is the Cornet Spurs. This is not the Wembanyama Spurs. You've got Devin Booker initiating at the top. You've got multiple wings and forwards who are at the small forward and power forward spots. This is Dylan Brooks and Royce O'Neal. For Phoenix, it's Harrison Barnes and Julian Champagnie. For the Spurs, and you've got a couple initiators. You've got a big roller who's very athletic. I would say that like Mark Williams is probably going to go 12 and 10 and get some good shots and get some good opportunities. And Jokic is going to be tasked with a lot defensively once again. How he handles it, we will see. But it does feel like Denver a little bit A little bit frustrating. A little bit frustrating that they were able to lose this one, but this is the first time that they've lost the front end of a back-to-back. Can you split the back-to-back? I remember talking about this Suns game as one, yeah, Denver's definitely losing this one. Like, I remember very vividly going over this and saying they're going to lose this one. Now that they lost the first end of the back-to-back, can they make up the difference on the second end? Like, if you're still going 1-1 in this situation, that's fine. Like, to me, that's par for the course in the NBA. People don't necessarily think that, but now that this is a must win. This is a must win. You do not have the flexibility to lose the second out of a back-to-back after losing the first one. Now, Phoenix was on the front end of a back-to-back against the OKC Thunder and pushed them to the brink last night. So imagine coming back and you get to go from the OKC defense to playing the Denver defense. Oh my God, they're going to get so easy shots. So can Denver disrupt that? Can they put the Suns into a difficult situation? The best way to do that is for Jokic and Murray to combine for about 70 points. We'll see whether they can. All right. That is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, folks. Brought to you by our good friends at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate the love and support on the podcast as always. Obviously, didn't have a Thursday show this last Thursday due to Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had a nice holiday break. I will be back. I'm not going to do a show after tonight's game. I'll do one on Monday morning and then another one on Tuesday morning following Denver's Monday game versus the Dallas Mavericks. Everybody have a good rest of your weekend. Appreciate the love and support on the podcast as always. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll talk to you guys very soon.